Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is one of the youngest among the G20 political leaders. However, when it comes to rallying the youth in political participation, he might just be the most experienced. And that's because on top of being Canada's Prime Minister, he is also the youth minister of his country. People look at your political track record. They're extremely impressed by your way of promoting the youth, and also your way of gearing up enthusiasm among the youth about politics. How did that work? What is your secretive remedy?
Well, I think the first thing is young people get a bad reputation for being disconnected or cynical or not caring about politics, when the fact is, what I find is young people care deeply about their communities, about their future. They just get frustrated when they don't have ways of making their voices heard or ways of being part of shaping their community's future or their country and their world's future. So what I really realized was drawing young people into the political process was a powerful way of getting them to feel connected with their country and contribute to it. But it's also a really important way, particularly in places like Canada, where the pace of political change and navel-gazing, looking inwards is so tempting. It challenges you to take a more long-term view. You have to, if you're listening and talking to young people, you have to think about the future 20, 30, 50 years in the future. And I think bringing a more long-term vision to Western democracies is something I'm glad to do.
Mr. Prime Minister, another thing about you many are extremely interested in is why you claim yourself to be a feminist.
Well, I think that's more of a recognition and a reflection of the reality of how young people see the world right now. To be a feminist, you just have to recognize that women should have the same opportunities as men, and that there's still a lot of work to do to get there. If you can say yes to both those things, well, congratulations, you're a feminist. And for me, it's important for men.
You're not afraid of that title. You're extremely proud of it.
No, I'm extremely proud of it, and I think more men should be open about saying they're feminists, because it's not just about women saying we need more opportunities. It should be smart men saying, yes, women need more opportunities. I had a great conversation with Jack Ma just yesterday about the importance of getting more women into the workforce, getting more women into positions of leadership, not because it's just a moral or right thing to do, but because it's better for success, to have multiple points of view. It's better for growth. It's better for everyone.
You are probably the youngest state leader among all the G20 economies, I guess, this time attending the summit, when it comes to age, but not necessarily political experiences.
You're very kind.
What does it take for politicians, do you think, to be successful, to be convincing, to be able to interact with the real people?
Well, one of the challenges of politics is it gets very, very easy to get closed off from ordinary citizens, to be surrounded by very smart people who give you solutions, and you find yourself cut off from everyday people and the challenges they live every day. You think about politics all the time. No ordinary person thinks about politics all the time. They think about their jobs, they think about their family, they think about... So for me, staying connected with people by having regular conversations, by using social media, by being open to walking down the street as much as you can.
Yeah, I saw your photo. First year when you were attending the UN conference, you were doing a yoga pose on the table. Of course, there are so many people talking about that, but what kind of message you really want to convey through those? And also holding all those little panda cups in a way.
I think one of the things that is important about leadership is that you be authentic, that you be real, that you be the person you are. I am someone who, I love to do physical things. I love to, meet people. I love to connect. I love animals. And for me to share who I am with the people that I have the responsibility to serve, so they feel that they know me and they know my priorities, keeps me closer to them and keeps me better able to understand what they need in terms of leadership.
So are we going to have more fun photos in the future?
I certainly hope so, because I'd hate to suddenly become boring and disconnected.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The issue of development has for the very first time become one of the focal points of the G20 Summit. Meanwhile, Africa's development process also for the very first time made to the discussion table at the summit. South African President Jacob Zuma happily recognized that the fact is, in our inclusive growth, he said that building up infrastructure is in fact pushing the momentum for Africa. Infrastructure project usually takes a lot of cash. I understand there has been establishment of the BRICS New Development Bank. It has been running for 1 year. Even the South African has now become the vice head of that organization. And also the AIIB, which has just started with their first board meeting, global board meeting. What do you think, Mr. President? Will these two entities provide your country with more alternatives, even the African continent?
The continent had taken a very deliberate decision to establish infrastructure that is going to connect the entire continent. And heads of states are actually leading that kind of, there's a committee that is leading that kind of infrastructure to ensure that infrastructure is there. So, but also, the question of funding will always be a challenge. So the emergence of the BRICS Bank has been one of the most important kind of happening in our society, because BRICS Bank is different from other big banks that would have stringent conditions, wanted to do, and therefore Africa and South Africa, all of us are looking at the BRICS Bank as the bank that is going to make things easier. And the BRICS itself has that understanding.
South African President Jacob Zuma. Of course, infrastructure development is one of the most important things for South Africa, but Italy has looked towards building up political momentum for economic restructuring. Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi has been trying to update his country's political system in order to avoid further deadlock that could stall development and growth. Let's hear what he had to say in this exclusive interview. Mr. Prime Minister, many say you're bold and brave in pushing forward the referendum likely to come in October to change the constitution so that politics in your country can move forward to catch up with the changes of the economy.
After a lot of years, finally something is changed in our country. And a new generation give a message of radical change in Italy. This message have some consequences. Just to make one example, to reduce the costs of organization of politicians, to give a message of more efficiency, a very strong fight against corruption, because I think for my country this is a great priority. And when last year we organized the Expo in Milan, we achieved an incredible result exactly because we fought against corruption with a new infrastructure in this way, led by a former judge against mafia and Camorra. So we consider important give a message of radical change. This message of radical change is a message of constitutional referendum. And I'm really confident about the intentions of Italian people to choose the future. The alternative is very clear. If we vote yes, we enter in the future. If we vote no, we continue with the same approach of the past. I think it's time for Italy to choose the future.
Europe now these days faces so much challenges. We all know Brexit. We do not know yet its impact. There's also the migrant crisis, and you got Middle East in a way being turned all side down. So what would that mean for Europe? Meanwhile, you've got economies in Europe suffering to a certain extent for quite a long time. And as you said, gridlock in politics in many European countries. What would this mean for Europe?
I think Brexit could become the most great opportunity for Europe. I'm sad for the decision of our friends, our British friends, but when the people vote for leave, the people vote for leave, point. That's. So this means Brexit have to be really a Brexit, so an exit by UK from EU. And at the same time, EU could become a place more attractive, more dynamic, more energetic, but we need an attention more focused on growth and not on austerity, on investments and not on bureaucracy, on politics and not on technocrats. This is the challenge. We can use Brexit to give new energy to Europe, but we have to change the approach. More attention about growth and less on austerity.
That is Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi earlier talking to us. Crucial bilateral meetings usually take place on the sidelines of the G20 Summit, and the one between China and the United States was, of course, one of the most anticipated. Chinese ambassador to the United States, Mr. Tian, in an exclusive interview with us, suggested there could be a wonderful way for the two countries to update the global governance system together. How much do you think the meeting itself and the two leaders work together in terms of the G20 Summit, this platform, like to provide the two countries with experiences of participating in the global governance together?
Well, I think this is a reunion in maybe two senses. First, it's in historic sense. Hangzhou is the place where the Shanghai Communique was negotiated.
Yeah. Premier Zhou Enlai and the Dr. Henry Kissinger?
Exactly, yeah. So now 44 years have passed, and we have had 8 American presidents from both parties. Now our two presidents are back in Hangzhou again. And this is a very good opportunity for us to review what has happened in the last 4 decades and so, and look forward to the future for the relationship.
What kind of future can we really look forward to, Ambassador Cui? You probably can go to a little bit in detail for us.
That will bring me to the other sense of reunion. This is actually a continuation of the strategic conversation between the two presidents, which they started back in 2013 in Sunnylands at the Annenberg Estate. And then they met again in Yingtai in 2014. They met again during the state visit by President Xi last year at the White House. And earlier this year, they met again on the occasion of the Nuclear Security Summit. Now they are meeting in Hangzhou. So this is really a continuation of the strategic conversation between the two presidents. And I'm sure they will give us a very clear and a strong guidance on how the relationship should move forward and how we could achieve a smooth transition from the Obama administration to the next American administration.
How smooth do you think that transition could be, given the fact we are already knowing the two possible candidates for that position? Will that add further pressure or pleasure to your job?
Well, this is a very challenging and demanding job, of course. There are always challenges, and sometimes there could be even more uncertainties. But I think that the long-term interests of the two countries will eventually determine the policies. I'm confident of that.
That's Ambassador Tian, Chinese ambassador to the United States. The kind of confidence he said was also reflected by Mr. Zhu Guangyao, China's Vice Minister of Finance and also the deputy of the G20 financial track. China and the United States still being the two biggest economies of the world, and both, of course, are members of the G20. So many wonder, Vice Minister Zhu, whether the two countries really likely to cooperate this time, or one is likely to derail the other's efforts.
For promote growth policy and keep finance market stability, certainly we have that same goal. And in the we must comprehensively use monetary policy, fiscal policy, and structural policy together. Absolutely, we have same position, and we are all agree to against the currency competition, use the currency to take advantage of trade, and we also together support. We must have very close consultation on foreign exchange market. So you can see we have very broad common points. And of course, that U.S. is the number one economy. China is the second largest economy. In the countryside, we need less more policy coordination too. But in G20 process, in general, we have good coordination.
Mr. Zhu Guangyao, that was the Vice Minister of Finance from China. Global challenges and inclusive growth was much emphasized in the G20 Summit communique. That needs to be translated into action and change. Let's hear from two important gentlemen in the financial and also trade landscape. AIIB President Jin Liqun and Vice Minister of Commerce from China, Mr. Wang Shouwen, on how the concerted efforts of the G20 economies can make the global economy further. Earlier, I had an interview with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He was talking about Canada as the first North American country to apply to join AIIB. He said there are still many other projects that his country can work on with China on infrastructure. What is your response?
I talked to him briefly yesterday, and he said, I'm so delighted to join AIIB. And I said, we are very, very happy and very much honored to have Canada as a new member. A new member with about more than 20 other countries waiting to join the bank. And we'll try to complete the membership process by the end of this year. With Canada's participation, AIIB will be further strengthened in its efforts to promote infrastructure development in its member countries.
President Jin, what do you think it might mean for the other two North American countries?
Our position has been consistent. If the countries want to join the AIIB, particularly the systemically significant economies, certainly that will be a great plus to our institution. As you know, those countries have experience in state governance. They can provide professionals of high caliber to join the bank. And on the board, they can help enhance the governance of this institution. So the importance does not rest with the financial resources, but more important, to strengthen the governance of this institution.
You're suggesting, it seems to me, President Jin, that whoever is not joining AIIB is having a pity because their voice will not be heard.
I think you have read too much into my points. I'm saying that AIIB is willing to work with all of the countries in this world. For some reason, some countries are not members or not members yet, but we still have lots of opportunities of working together. Because the bank is transparent, is open, we practice international competitive bidding, and we have global recruitment policies. So a country could not be a member, but still participating in the international competitive bidding. Their companies can be involved in the infrastructure investment, and their nationals can join our bank as professionals.
Among the G20 economies, as we mentioned, at different development stages, and they're all facing the issue of overcapacity. And some have been accusing China of being a major player of providing the world's overcapacity. For example, in some negotiation between China and the United States. What do you make of these kinds of accusations, Vice Minister Wang?
This issue is a global issue. This issue is not emanating from a single country. This is an issue which has been there for some time in many economies. And ministers also agree that we need to have collective global action to address the overcapacity issue. As far as China is concerned, I think China has been very responsible in this regard. While some other economies were talking about reducing overcapacity, China has adopted concrete measures to reduce the overcapacity of some sectors like steel. Over the past 5 years, we cut the steel overcapacity by 90 million tons, and we have made the plan to cut further the capacity of steel in China by another 100 million tons to 150 million tons. So China has been very serious in tackling this issue. But this issue, again, is a global issue. It requires the collective efforts of G20 members and beyond.
Wang Shouwen, Vice Minister of Commerce, and Jin Lichun, the President of AIIB. And now let's move on to the trade side. In order to come up with practical solutions to lift a sluggish economy, the international business community came up with a policy recommendation to the G20 leaders. In an interview I had earlier with Alibaba founder Jack Ma, he told me that the future is going to be a very different one based on new technologies and the internet. What about that free trade zone? Is that going to be adopted by political leaders of the G20 Summit?
Yeah, I think so. At least we're giving the official proposal to the G20 leaders for the EWTP, and we have the confidence that it will be accepted, because this EWTP is not for certain country or certain companies' trade. It is for the global young people and the small business.
You have been very keen on doing social responsibility, and many wonder, are you follow the role model of Bill Gates and many others? Is China going to have another social responsibility model like you?
Well, I think in China we have so many great people that are doing the wonderful things on philanthropy and social responsibility. It is not only a responsibility to do something, it is our passion. It is my personal passion that focuses on education and environment. And it's a great honor that in your life that you can do something that is helping people. So I think, yeah, Bill Gates, absolutely, he sort of set a wonderful role model, and Warren Buffett. There are so many great leaders in the world that we can benefit from. And China is the second largest economy today. And I do believe that more and more Chinese business leaders and entrepreneurs are going to put their money inside. It's not about money. It's about time, it's about efforts and passion.
Is the future in China of the internet going to be about Alibaba and Tencent?
No, it's going to be future for everybody. Internet is not for certain company. Internet is something for everybody.